Hi there. Today we are making 1-can beans, and this is super easy and super tasty, inexpensive, probably have all the pantry items, and it's not really so much a recipe as it is a jumping off point for you to quickly throw together your version of this. Now, the very first version of this that I found was on Epicurious, and they called it Cuban beans. I have no claims here about how authentically Cuban or not it is. I was really intrigued because it used a can of beans and it used the aquafaba in the beans. And most people throw that out. So let me tell you what aquafaba is quickly. It's the cooking water from beans. So canned beans are in aquafaba, and it can be used for all sorts of things. Primarily, it's gotten a lot of press for being an egg substitute that's vegan. So that's really interesting, and there are a whole slew of recipes. I make a mayo with aquafaba that's pretty cool. I might do that recipe at some point. In any case, what I liked about this recipe was that, like I said, it's a jumping off point, and it uses the aquafaba, which means that everything's getting used and it's super easy. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm told that you should pour the beans out and rinse them and don't use that water. It's just the cooking water. In fact, on this particular brand, it's water and beans. I'm not shilling for this. But sometimes it's salt in there as well, and that's okay because you probably would add salt to your recipe anyway. Right. So you would just use less if it was salted aquafaba. Mine is not. So let's carry on with this recipe, and there will be 3 other versions down below for you to follow. There's a baked beans, an Italian, and a Mexican. Again, everything is
say that there will be a quiz, but
no quiz. So we're just going to take some oil. In this case, we're using sunflower oil, a neutral oil like sunflower, canola, peanut, whatever. And we've got about 60 grams of minced onion there. That's a small onion. And then I've got 2 cloves of garlic and some chili flakes, but those are optional. And you'll see in the recipes below that you can, lots of these things are optional. The spicing changes with each one. So I'm just going to turn that up a bit. And you know what? You don't need to see me saute these until they are translucent, which is really what I'm going to do. Rob, did you have a question?
No, I was just wondering if there was any comment on the musicality of this particular fruit, but that would be silly right now. So.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it may be musical for you. It never is for me. All bodies are different. So we're going to come back after I've had a chance to saute these off. So we're back, and the onions have softened and they've gone mostly translucent, and that's over a low flame. If it was higher, you would get browned bits, and that's not really what we're going for here. You could definitely go for that. You just have to be careful not to burn your garlic, because garlic gets bitter when it gets dark. But if you want the flavor of the browned onion, you could totally do that. Here I was just softening them. Okay, so the next thing we're doing is we're going to put in the can of beans, in this case black beans, but you'll see below I've got pinto and white, various navy beans and whatnot listed for the other recipes. So it's a black bean for the Cuban version, and all the aquafaba that's in there.
So you do that before putting the spices in?
Yep. And then I'm also going to add half a can of water. So this is the technique from the Epicurious recipe that I thought was so interesting. And I'm going to turn the heat up here because the next thing that we want to do is we'll put the spices in. So this happens to be ground coriander, ground cumin, and this is smoked paprika. This is the sweet version, but you could use the hot version if you wanted to. So just get that in there. And what we're doing here by turning up the temperature is we're going to bring the liquid up to a boil. And what we're trying to achieve here is that as we cook the liquid down, we're blending all the flavors together and cooking off some of that liquid and just making it all super yummy. So we're going to bring that up to a boil, and then we're going to simmer it. And you know what? I guess you don't need to see that either. I didn't think this was going to be a 3-parter, but it is. We'll see you then. So we're back, and it's been about 10 minutes, which is longer than it would usually be. And I just wanted to run by you what happened. So I should have noticed, and I did notice but didn't say anything or change anything. When I opened that particular can of beans, that brand, there's lots of aquafaba in there, right? There was a whole bunch of liquid at the top of the beans at the bottom. Sometimes when you open up a can of beans, what you see is the beans with this like jelly-like substance holding them together. For those, you absolutely need that extra half a can's worth of water or stock. In this case, I could have done without, and I have sometimes done without, and I probably should have because it took longer to cook it down. It really should take more like 5 minutes. This is a very, very quick recipe. But I want to show you what cooked down looks like. To me, it means when I do that, it takes a little bit of time for the liquid, it's like jam making, for the liquid to run together. That to me means that I've cooked it down enough. Now these are super soft because I cooked them longer, as I said, because I had to cook down the liquid. They're not necessarily all this soft. You can cook the liquid down even more, but keep in mind that once these are a bit cooler off the heat, they'll firm up. So you can use handy dandy potato masher and do a bit of a mash. These certainly don't need it. If you're doing the refried beans version and you like smooth refried beans, I recommend just getting your stick blender in and blitzing that. I'm not going to do either here, and there is one more step. So, but that's basically what you're going for in terms of your consistency. And I did also just want to mention beans and aquafaba. Why? Okay, I should have said this off the top, right? Beans are really inexpensive. That organic can was $1.99. If you go non-organic, even cheaper, right? So, and they're excellent fiber source, protein source, vegan protein source, but they're good for non-vegans. The places in the world where people live the longest and the healthiest, they eat a lot of beans. Beans are good for you. Beans are cheap. Eat some beans. And they're super tasty.
You're a bean evangelist.
If you know what you're doing, beans are super yummy, right? And then aquafaba, I just wanted, aqua is from water. Faba is it's not the genus, it is the family and the order name of beans.
I thought she was the actor in that Crazy Rich Asians movie. But,
no. So the one last step that we have here, yeah, we're going to ignore that, right? The one last step that we have here, this is a mixture of 1 tablespoon apple cider vinegar and 1 tablespoon honey. Now, if you're vegan, obviously you're not going to use honey. Honey, you could use agave here. In the other recipes, like the baked beans
maple
recipe,
syrup or something like that too?
in the baked beans recipe, I recommend maple syrup for the flavor. And you could use it here, but I wouldn't. So,
no. Oh, sorry.
So I'm just going to pop. I thought it would be better mixed than that. That's actually why I put them together, because I thought it would be easier to get the honey out. But hey, maybe not. So there you go. A little sweet and a little sour, that agrodulce thing that people love. And then, of course, this particular can of beans did not have salt. So we're going to give it a good amount of salt. And some pepper, because we can. And there you go. You can then garnish this with, you could put cilantro on, you could minced red pepper, you could also cook that in if you wanted to. You could throw in some frozen corn at the very last minute if you wanted. There are all sorts of ways to doctor this and make it more pretty and more tasty. And like I said, there are going to be 3 other versions down below. I have Mexican, Italian, and baked, because they're not actually baked, they're done on the stovetop. And that is partially thanks to Mark Bittman, as well as the Epicurious technique. So there you go. You can do this super easy, super quick, inexpensive, and good for you.